Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. This is episode number 151, The Principle of Passion. It's very funny. I know a kid born into a family where his mom and dad love classical music. They're pretty staunch, sort of stiff folk. And this kid, and I do mean from the time he was about 2 years old, he would drum on everything and he was pretty rowdy. And by the time he was maybe 4, he really wanted an electric guitar. And by the time he was 9 or 10, he could play the drums incredibly well and he could play the electric guitar. The kid was like born to be a rocker. It was hysterical. And his mom and dad kept saying, "We don't know how this happened. We have no idea what we did or what we didn't do. I mean, where did this kid come from?" I want to tell you something, Mom and Dad. Your kid is not born as a blank slate that you get to write their story on. Mm-mm. That's an absolute lie. I just need you to know that. You do not write your kid's story. Now, you have a lot of influence on it. You might even color on some of the pages, and you definitely have parts in the story, but you do not write their story. People are born with a passion of some kind inside of them. I've seen it so many tens of thousands of times in various parts of the globe. There is absolutely no denying it's there. And so the thing is, what are you going to do with that passion in your kid? I can guarantee you some people try very hard to squelch it. It isn't the right passion, it isn't an acceptable idea. It isn't something the parents approve of or love or have any kind of an appreciation for, and they don't want it to happen. Well, that's pretty tragic. It has a lot to do with the limitations of the parents or the insecurities of the parents, and actually, truthfully, not much to do with love for the child. Because you know what? When you love someone, you really want what is best for them. And what is best for any of us as a human being is the liberty to pursue what is really exciting and thrilling and fun and amazing and incredible to us, which is what drives a passion. What's really an astounding thing, I want to talk to you for a minute about a couple people in history. We're going to talk about Thomas Edison. He had such an amazingly creative, inventive mind, and no one knew or even thought of many of the things he thought about and created, came up with, designed, had an idea about, even though he couldn't carry out all the ideas that he had. That guy was born with a passion, and he truly was. Albert Einstein was born with a passion. Galileo was born with a passion. Christopher Columbus had an astounding passion, and he wanted to live it out. Are you getting the picture that some of the people who have great passion are different or oddballs or out of the ordinary, don't seem or look like the normal average individual? And as a parent, if you want your kid to just be average and fit in and be normal and have a happy, wonderful life, you may be signing your kid up for a whole life full of frustration because maybe that's not the way that child is designed. And you know, Thomas Edison, definitely Einstein, a lot of people who were incredibly creative and imaginative, inventive, and incredibly bright did not have easy lives. They didn't do well in school. People were awful to them. People tormented them. People insulted them, were rude to them. It's not an easy thing being really different than the norm. And so instead of you being part of making it worse, perhaps you might take the alternative route and be part of making it better and encourage them and support them in spite of the fact that their passion doesn't look like what you might have imagined or even what you had hoped for them as a parent. I'll tell you another illustration. I know someone and they were born with a very scientific mind. I don't know another way to put it. They're kind of cut and dried and very calculating. They do see the world as very black and white. It's a matter of prove it to me. The whole scientific method, it has to be provable and repeatable. Just this kid was like that as a little kid. And the questions this kid asked were crazy amazing. You could just tell that that bent was already right inside of that kid's life and long before their mom or dad knew what to do with it. And now they're an incredible scientist and doing really great things. I notice I didn't tell you a gender or any much specifics because I know this person really well and I don't feel like it's my right to divulge their life. I just want you to know people are born with a certain passion. It's a matter of intensity, maybe. Some people are very intensely passionate. I tend to be intensely passionate about creativity. I knit, I crochet, I applique, I quilt, I do cake decorating, I paint. I just make all kinds of things with my hands because I love to create. I was just like that as a little kid. Oh my word. I couldn't do anything else but take mud and form it into things and snow and make it into things. And yeah, I just did everything I could do with my hands since I was probably a year old, literally. I want you to know that it is in the pursuit of our passions that life really has the deepest meaning and the most fulfillment and the greatest richness. If you are trying to keep your kid from his or her passion, if you are thwarting them at every step because you don't like it, you're not familiar with it, or you're uncomfortable with it and you don't approve of it, you are signing up your kid for a lifetime of frustration and difficulty. Why in the world would someone do that? But I've seen it far too many times. People have passions for writing, for communicating, for expressing themselves, poetry, or great stories. People have passions for music, whether that's playing an instrument or loving certain kinds of music. They haven't even heard it, and the first time they do, they're in love and they are going to go 90 miles an hour toward that for the rest of their life because that is what lights up their soul. People are passionate about art. People are passionate about sports. I suppose I don't have to tell you that. Whether they're playing them or watching them, people are passionate about video games. They really, truly are. And just because a kid is passionate about a video game doesn't mean that's what they're going to do the rest of their lives, but they can really be very passionate about it. Some people are passionate about reading, about learning. Some people are passionate about science or medicine or bugs or plants and flowers, trees. People are passionate about the environment. There are people who are passionate about animals. There are so many things in our world to be passionate about. And so the principle is that you learn your child well enough to know what it is that he or she is passionate about. If you look at your kid when he's 8 and go, well, you really loved blank when you were 3, and then you really loved blank when you were 5, and last year you really liked this, and so, you just can't make up your mind. That's an awful thing to say to anyone, much less to a child. A child is curious about the whole world, exploring things around him or her, and learning about himself or herself. Don't do things that make him or her feel stupid or foolish or less than because their interests are changing. They are learning, they are exploring, they are discovering. Please be gracious and let them try that. Let them try new things. Seriously. If your child doesn't learn how to cook well until they're 10 or 12, but then they're incredibly passionate about it and they grow up to be a great chef, it doesn't matter if when they were 4, they thought they were going to be a ballerina, and when they were 6, they thought they were going to be a school teacher, and when they were 7, they thought they would be a pilot, and now at 12 or 13, they discover they love cooking and they go on to love that. That's really okay. It is. So for some of us, it's just something that we know about right away, even as a little kid, and we go after it with gusto. And for some people, it's a matter of exploration and learning and development of themselves and their ideas and how they fit into the world. And so it isn't always this little tiny baby at 7 or 8 months old knows what they're going to do and they're crazy about it. So for some people, it is a matter of developing it and processing it and learning as they go along. But either way, please do your best to allow your child to pursue their passion. So you have a little girl and she's wild about horses, and you can't afford horseback riding lessons. And I get it, it's pretty expensive, and you definitely can't afford to stable a horse. But that doesn't mean you can't find a place to let your child go horseback riding a couple times a year, or buy them all kinds of books, or let them see videos about horses and taking care of horses and learning what a horse is. I saw a movie the other night about a young girl that had been wild about horses since she was a little girl, and she was 17. It was the first time she ever got on a horse. That's okay. It didn't dim her passion, and she was really excited when she finally got there. Do everything you can to foster your child's passions. If they're crazy about NASA or the idea about going into space, help them learn about planets. Take them to a planetarium or to an observatory. I really love Cranbrook Institute in Michigan, in Birmingham, Michigan. There are just a lot of things to see and do, and places to go, and ways to foster or facilitate your child's passions. I would contend that a life with no passion whatsoever is pretty dull. I mean that with all of my heart, and it doesn't need to be. And so, whatever it is that you are passionate about, share that with your child. But if they don't love your passion, expose them to other things. Let them have an opportunity to develop their own passion and foster it to the best of your ability so that they can live a life with deep purpose and meaning and really be fulfilled. I'm going to make this statement to you because it's really very difficult. For some people, their passion is disappearing from life. In other words, they're going to be a drug addict or an alcoholic. They don't want to handle life, and their passion is to just go away. And I know someone like that. And they're actually now in their late 60s, and they said to me, since I was 11 or 12, all I've ever wanted to do is to be able to spend every day of my life high. They didn't lie about that. Well, that's pretty self destructive, and it really goes to a deep level of either frustration with life, sadness and disappointment over life, or an unwillingness to live their life because they don't feel worthy or they don't have the sense that their life is actually ever going to amount to much or contribute to anyone. You need to pay attention to those kinds of things, to destructive patterns or ways that kids don't have a healthy bent, because the earlier you find those things and are able to help with them, the more likely it is they're going to be able to find a passion into which they can pour their energy and pour their souls that will be helpful and possibly even contribute something good to the world as well as to their own lives. My challenge question for you today is, what is my kid passionate about? If you have 3 or 4 kids, what are my children passionate about? If you don't know the answer to that, then I really invite you to have time with your kids and find out. Pay attention to them and listen to them and discover what it is that your child is passionate about and help him or her foster that passion, develop it, learn about it, strengthen it, and really have a richer, fuller life because of it. Thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Please leave me a comment, a suggestion, a question. Feel free to share this with someone. Give me a thumbs up, and I will look forward to seeing you very soon again on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.